I'm Ben Harburg, managing partner at MSA Capital. He was in Riyadh for the China-Saudi conference as well. Ben, thanks so much for being here. I've got to ask you, when you think about, as someone who deploys in China and the constant sort of Damocles when it comes to the geopole and what that can do, a lot of people were trying to suggest that this Blinken meeting was going to be great for, overall investor sentiment. And then you hear that Biden at a fundraiser was suggesting that Xi is a dictator. Do you think that this just basically one step forward, two steps back?
We're in a stalemate geopolitically, and I didn't expect much improvement. Certainly, we're seeing a bit of a thaw, and we've had some off-the-record conversations with senior White House officials over the last few weeks that hinted that there will be a little bit of a pullback to some of the negative rhetoric from the U.S. side, particularly on the technology front, because the challenge that China was facing historically was even if they did have a bit of positive economic news, it would be undermined by these geopolitical conversation, by threats of war over Taiwan, by continued U.S. sanction on Chinese technology and financial services businesses. And so that is going to be the constant theme and overhang, scaring away investors and pricing in a lot of risk to the market, even when there are some positive news bits on the China side domestically.
Can I just ask, and I don't want to put you on the spot at all, is that referring in terms of the off the record to the prospect of that Biden executive order? Was that something that you discussed that could be a possibility?
So the executive order is something we've known about for over a year, and it's been negotiated, and and we've heard all kinds of different versions of it. The scope has consistently narrowed from a wide array of industries to just a handful, and to a wide array of investors, and then to kind of a very specific scope. So I think ultimately something there will still emerge. It'll be a bit of a reverse CFIUS. It'll start as an information gathering exercise and then expand. And it will start very specifically sectorally to things that have more of a military application, and maybe expand from there. It is something that I believe is not just purely though national security oriented, much more kind of about protecting American economic interests in the long term from a truly worthy technological competitor.
Now, let's shift and talk a little bit about China domestically, because obviously we did get that, I suppose, disappointing trio data just earlier on. And I was looking at just the latest out of BOFA, the June consumer survey, and it appears to be that sentiment does continue to weaken there, because this is supposed to be the thing that pulls China out of the economic malaise, at least for the second half of the year, the consumption coming back on. From everything that you've seen so far in terms of the stimulus that's been afforded, or perhaps some of the chatter, do you expect that we are going to see something substantive to really try and drive consumption, or should we just be expecting, a slow burn throughout the rest of this year?
I expect more direct government intervention. I think the central bank, views itself as having capitulated a bit by lowering these interest rates, and now kind of starting to hint that it is exploring a stimulus package and doing things to stimulate consumer spending and stabilizing a bit more psychologically and literally around the property market. I think that they thought, because they saw in 2022 that if they kind of hinted at these types of measures, all of a sudden the markets would rally. But when they take these tacit forms of stimulus, and still far away from the U.S. in terms of obviously the actions that were taken in the midst of COVID to stimulate the U.S. economy, that kind of almost organic evolution and organic improvement in the market just simply is not coming. They know that they're going to have to spend more on infrastructure and other kind of direct interventions to hit that 5% growth target and exceed it, which I think was really their goal. And so I do expect now that they are starting to recognize that their kind of organic growth enhancements aren't going to work, and they're going to have to really get deeply involved in the economy to stimulate growth.
Important. Well, what did you make of Alibaba? It's a little bit of a shuffle. A lot of people did expect this shuffle to take place the way in which that is it. You even have, someone who's in the United States a lot, Joe Tsai, taking over as chairman of the main group. But from a perspective in terms of investing, does this move the needle for you? Does it change your mindset about whether or not you would deploy in Alibaba right now?
Ali continues to have significant geopolitical and particularly, obviously, domestic regulatory risks. I think that Joe's appointment as the chairman makes sense. He is still looked at favorably globally, particularly in the United States. As you said, he's got a lot of soft power cachet because of his his heritage in the United States and Taiwan, and obviously also his ownership of various sports properties. So I think he gives them a bit more favorable light in the U.S., but they still have a long way to go to get out from the eyes of the regulators in China. But I think Daniel's appointment and focus on Ali Cloud makes total sense. This is really their silver bullet when it comes to competing both domestically and globally as they try to integrate these new kind of AI functionalities into all of the SaaS packages that they offer. And they're going all out across the world, battling AWS, Microsoft Cloud, to be that preferred cloud provider at a national level in various geographies.
Ben, we are flat out of time, but really do appreciate you making time. Hope to speak to you again soon, and appreciate the Brooklyn Nets reference too. Thank you so much. That was Ben Harburg from MSA Capital.